Imagine trusting someone with your life savings, only to find out it was all a lie. Bernie Madoff, a Wall Street legend, a trusted advisor, and a man who promised security and wealth to thousands. But behind the charm lurked one of the most devastating financial scams in history. Born in Queens, New York in 1938, Bernie grew up in a modest Jewish household. He showed early ambition, working odd jobs and saving every penny. By his 20s, Bernie had started investing with $5,000, a small start that would lay the foundation for an empire and a massive fraud. In 1960, Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities was born. At first a legitimate firm, but Bernie soon realized he could make more by creating the illusion of profits rather than real investment. Bernie quickly became a trusted figure on Wall Street. Consistent returns and reliability made him a magnet for wealthy clients. A Ponzi scheme uses new investors' money to pay older investors. On paper, returns look real, but they're fake. Bernie realized the more people trusted him, the bigger the scheme could grow, and he thrived on that trust. Clients included charities, wealthy families, and even celebrities. Everyone wanted a piece of the Madoff empire. Madoff delivered consistent returns of 10 to 12% annually, even during market downturns. People believed it was magic, but it was all a lie. How did Bernie fool so many? Fear of missing out and greed. He sold security, prestige, and exclusivity. Over decades, billions flowed through Madoff's firm. New money paid old investors. On paper, everyone was winning. To protect the illusion, Bernie funneled money through offshore accounts and shell companies, keeping billions hidden. Clients didn't question him. The illusion of expertise, exclusivity, and guaranteed returns created blind loyalty. Bernie lived a billionaire lifestyle. Yachts, mansions, private jets, all bought with investors' money. Statements showed constant growth, even in market crashes. Bernie's manipulation made it impossible to see the truth. Even when regulators questioned the returns, Bernie's reputation kept suspicions at bay. Nobody dared challenge him. Investors ignored red flags. Returns seemed consistent. Trades made no sense, but Bernie's charm silenced doubts. For decades, Bernie's operation appeared flawless. Regular statements, fake trades, and consistent profits kept investors believing. Even fellow brokers respected him. Bernie was considered trustworthy, an insider with unmatched expertise. By 2008, Bernie's scheme relied entirely on new deposits. When withdrawals increased, panic set in. The illusion shattered. Billions were missing. Bernie's empire began to crumble almost overnight. On December 11, 2008, the FBI arrested Bernie Madoff at his Manhattan home. The man trusted by thousands had deceived the world. Victims were stunned. Thousands lost life savings, charities were ruined, and trust in Wall Street shattered forever. In 2009, Bernie pled guilty to 11 federal crimes, including securities fraud, investment advisor fraud, and money laundering. Fake trades, falsified statements, and non-existent investments created an illusion of wealth. The mechanics were meticulous and secretive. Investigators discovered billions moved through offshore accounts, shell companies, and complex financial webs. Clients didn't question him. The illusion of expertise, exclusivity, and guaranteed returns created blind loyalty. Bernie lived a billionaire lifestyle. Yachts, mansions, private jets, all bought with investors' money. Statements showed constant growth, even in market crashes. Bernie's manipulation made it impossible to see the truth. Even when regulators questioned the returns, Bernie's reputation kept suspicions at bay. Nobody dared challenge him. Investors ignored red flags. Returns seemed consistent. Trades made no sense, but Bernie's charm silenced doubts. For decades, Bernie's operation appeared flawless. Regular statements, fake trades, and consistent profits kept investors believing. Even fellow brokers respected him. Bernie was considered trustworthy, an insider with unmatched expertise. When the scheme collapsed, investors discovered the horrifying truth: their savings had vanished. Bernie faced media scrutiny like never before. Headlines screamed betrayal, fraud, and ruin. Families lost life savings, homes, and retirement funds. The emotional toll was devastating. In 2009, Bernie Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison, a symbolic punishment for the largest financial fraud in U.S. history. Efforts to recover investor funds began immediately, but only a fraction of the billions was ever returned. The Madoff scandal changed regulations, investor awareness, and Wall Street forever. Bernie's world had collapsed. The Wall Street legend was now a convicted felon, facing decades behind bars. Inside prison, Bernie reflected on his life, his choices, and the empire built on lies. He shared his story with fellow inmates, turning his rise and fall into lessons, or cautionary tales. Bernie studied, documented, and eventually wrote his memoir, detailing his life and the Ponzi scheme. His memoir, later titled The Wizard of Lies, became a bestseller, revealing the secrets behind the world's largest financial fraud. Hollywood soon adapted the story into a film, bringing Bernie's scandal to a global audience. The movie recreated the rise and fall of Bernie Madoff, dramatizing the betrayal and greed that fueled the Ponzi scheme. For victims, the film was a reminder of loss. Real people had suffered real consequences, unlike the dramatized Hollywood version. Some investors received partial compensation, but most were left with permanent financial scars. The Madoff scandal triggered reforms in financial regulations, aiming to prevent another catastrophe. Investors became more cautious, attending seminars and learning to spot Ponzi schemes before it was too late. The scandal resonated worldwide. Madoff became synonymous with financial deception and greed. Victims had to rebuild their lives, learning hard lessons about trust and financial vigilance. Even Bernie, despite his charm and brilliance, could not escape the consequences of decades of deception. The Ponzi scheme remains a stark reminder. Even trusted advisors can betray, and due diligence is essential. Today, educators use Bernie's story to teach financial literacy and fraud awareness. From humble beginnings to Wall Street legend, and finally to criminal conviction, Bernie Madoff's story is a cautionary tale for generations. While money can be lost, knowledge gained from such disasters becomes invaluable. Bernie's legacy is complex, brilliant, deceptive, and ultimately destructive, a lesson in ambition without ethics. The story of Bernie Madoff reminds us, vigilance, knowledge, and ethics are the true safeguards against fraud.